One of the most common questions I get asked is how to wrap the roof of a car with aggressive film that doesn't have air egress technology. Well, here's how you do it. Because of the aggressive nature of this type of film, especially on a curved roof, it's somewhat hard to access and get really good position on. I think it's a good idea to lower the surface energy of the sides. A very good, quick, easy way to do this is by running masking tape along that edge, and again it varies per vehicle, but especially you want to get all four edges. You want to get the back, sides, and especially on the front. Windows have a very high surface energy, so lowering that there can make a big difference, especially when you're finishing the job. Obviously cleaning is huge here, and especially you want to get all those little specks off. So I'm using a tack cloth here just to get all those little specks off, especially before I go live, because again you're going to see any speck of dust underneath the film. Again, I always think getting the right size is important for the roof panel, so especially this material here is 137 centimeters wide, or 54 inches. So I'm going to make sure I got about 2 inches clearance on one side, lock it in place, and then Gimas on the other side, Gimas Brazil is helping me out here, he's going to cut it off on the other side, so use his scrap for later. But again, making the panel a little smaller and easier, especially with aggressive film, is very important. So once the panel is locked in place with magnets, you want to start close to one side, either the front or the back. In this case there's not a big antenna, but there's a slight little raised area there, so it's better to start on this area. So we're going to start with about a 16 inches there, very important, just to kind of make sure we get that enough to work on but not too much to deal with. Very important there with aggressive film. Then I think it's a very good idea to fold the paper under. This makes it much easier to pick up the paper when we continue on in the next half. But again, notice that even when cutting the backing paper sometimes, especially on film that doesn't have great backing paper or a super high quality backing paper, what you want to do is use a tack cloth and wipe that away nice and clean, so again you get perfect good quality. The trick is obviously not to let it touch the panel that's live without the backing paper. So we tack it right in the middle, make sure we have glass on either side, and you really want to make sure you get a nice good clean permanent hinge, and this helps dramatically for the whole panel how it goes on. So you can notice how we're continually keeping it away. We're not letting it touch. And because it's such a small section here, it's very easy to keep it away. So we work in increments, and as a team, I do one side, Gimas does the other. And once we get past this little raised object here, notice how I come over, create some glass, and then Gimas is going to trap it behind right there, and then we're going to continue to work it around. Again, his free hand is still keeping the material away, and I'm keeping the material away. And so far, we haven't had a single bubble just because we're working with such a small little area. But now we have a larger section coming up, and I think this makes it a little trickier, but yet at the same time not. The hardest part right now is always avoiding getting wrinkles or bubbles right at this first section here, because it tends to buckle a little bit because it's grabbing the sides. Keep it away at a 45-degree angle. Gimas is pulling very firmly at a 45-degree angle away towards the front, as am I with my free hand. Once we work it past this section, we can then lay the panel flat, which makes it much easier for higher quality. But the biggest thing what we're doing right now is we're keeping the backing paper on. And we're keeping the backing paper, only pulling it right here about, I would say, 6 to 7 inches, or about 20 centimeters, and then working in increments. And our free hands never let go, and they're pulling away. Like I'm pulling toward my right elbow, and Gimas is pulling towards his left elbow, so 45 degrees towards the front, and that creates a nice glassy film right in the middle, and it squeegees down. But again, we're working in increments. It'd be great to just take off the whole backing paper, pull it, create glass, and rock and roll, but you can do that. You can't do that with this film. You can do it with air egress film, but not this film. So again, see how the backing paper keeps it nice and away and bubble free. And we're just working as a team, squeegeeing and getting a nice rhythm. Pull, and again, just work evenly and incrementally. The trick in it too, especially when you're pulling, is to not let it touch. So we're pulling away as we pull the backing paper. But again, you can see how some wrinkles are starting to kind of build up there on the side, naturally because it curves, but because we've been pulling away this whole time, it's not building up in the middle, just a little bit on the sides. So again, what I really want you to pay attention to now is how I'm squeegeeing, especially now that it's starting to wrinkle here, is I'm squeegeeing at a 45-degree angle and just sliding the material away. Right there is a good shot of it. And I'm not squeegeeing with too much of my squeegee, only about a 1/4 inch or about a centimeter of the squeegee itself, because if you squeegee with too much there, it's definitely going to wrinkle. Now that we're at the front, we're going to do the exact same thing as we did at the back, is we're going to hold it away. In this case, it kind of touched there, so I'm using the palm of my hand flat to pick it up, and then we're squeegeeing away. Gimas squeegees toward his corner at 45 degrees, and I squeegee towards mine. Again, this is a triangle type shape, but again, based on the material, especially how aggressive it is, sometimes it's going to be important to use a little heat. So once we get here, and I'm just reading the film, we're going to just apply a little bit of heat to soften it here, not to stretch it too much, but just to kind of relax those wrinkles, and then we're going to gently pull the film. Okay, and again, this just gets a little tricky, but that's just the nature of the film. No air regress, tacky film, and a tough section. But again, this is the only part that we're really sweating on. The rest, because we used technique and we took our time, worked out great. Then when you're done, this is when the masking tape really comes into play, especially for finishing, is look how easily the film picks off the passenger side in this case, so that I can tuck it in properly into place. If it didn't have that masking tape there, it'd be much harder to pick up and it might even break. So again, the masking tape is huge there, and it doesn't cost much to put on or take that much time, but it makes a huge difference. And again, here's a great tip from the Rat Monkey. He's in the installer based in the Netherlands that I like to work with sometimes, is he takes masking tape sometimes and puts it on his magnets, and that does the exact same thing. Great little tip there. So this is how you wrap a roof with aggressive film. Thanks for watching. I'm Justin Payton.